write your name at the top of his list. And the Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist. And the eagle will fly, and it's gonna be here. I brought to you courtesy of the red, white, and blue.
It's time for Veterans Issues, the show that brings you information about veterans, military, and their family. Now here's your host, Ken Rollins.
Welcome to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins here. This is still TBI month, and we're ending up this month of March with Traumatic Brain Injury Month. And my guest today is a survivor of TBI, and we're going to talk to him. We'll come back. His name is Joshua Kraft. Stay where you are. Be right back. Welcome back to Veterans Issue, brought to you by the Red, White, and Blue. Ken Rollins here. Today's guest is a fellow I've been thinking about getting on here for a long time. I wanted to get him on here last year during Traumatic Brain Injury Month, but we couldn't work it out. So this year I got him before we end up the month of March. We're taping today. We're still in the month of March, and the month of March is always Traumatic Brain Injury Month. And me personally, I think every month ought to be, because there's a lot people need to be aware of that. Today my guest is Joshua Kraft. We're going to call him Josh today because that's who we refer to him as, and he's a TBI survivor. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thank you for having me, Ken.
Good to see you. I don't get to see you but except on Saturdays.
That's right.
Me and disclaimer, Josh and I are announcers out at the League of Our Own, along with a couple other guys joining in the afternoon part, but that's a passion of ours that we go out there. We don't get the big bucks for that.
Well, we're a tough act to follow too.
Yeah, that's it. We'll probably be considered out there the awesomest, like we are, like the show is. Josh, what I want to do today is, because so many people have experienced traumatic brain injury. In the military, veterans, there's a lot of veterans out here, some I've had on the show. People that have someone in the family that had a TBI don't know what to do. And they're discouraged, and they feel like that, this is not going to get any better, and, whatever. You're an example of that. And we want to go back and talk about how you got yours and that kind of thing, and the path you led to where you are here today. But while I was talking about the League of Our Own, we see a lot of people out there that are physically challenged because of things like traumatic brain injury. And I just want them, as they see this show, to understand that there's a better tomorrow, that there is hope for that. So that's what I want to present here today. But let's go back to your situation. Tell me when this happened to you, how it happened, and the results of it. I know a little bit about it from your family and whatever as it was happening, but not much since then.
Well, I was I was working for the city of Oxford, and because they always hire summer workers, out of school,
okay.
And I was working for the cemetery, and we were cutting, and I was on the back of a truck, and I, that hill at the Oxford cemetery, and we were. I think we were going down the hill, and he took a kind of a quick turn, and I fell off. Everything else came with me, and one of the items on the back of the truck hit me on the
You mean
head.
the tools came with you?
Yeah, they say
Oh.
maybe a leaf blower or something like
Okay.
that might have hit me, but then after that I was airlifted to Caraway in Birmingham. I was in a coma for 3 weeks. They said I had bifrontal contusion, which is brain injury on the frontal lobes.
In layman's terms, what is that? Is that like shaken baby syndrome? Is the brain loose in there, or what?
No, it just it gets bruised.
Bruised, okay.
Kind of, yeah. And there's a lot of distress signals that it'll send out.
Do you remember that part of it? Any part of that?
No, I am remember probably about an hour or two before my accident, which is not common for most TBI survivors. If you go to any hospital that deals with that, like I was at the Shepherd Center in Atlanta, most of them don't remember a few days before, and there's even some of them that don't remember several years before their accident.
Well, I've had a Marine on here at TBI. He remembers before the ID exploded, and then after recovery and getting in the hospital thing. But I've not been involved with that many TBI. I had a young man on here who was was in an automobile accident, and his mom and dad were killed in the accident, and then they were cutting his dad out of the car, who was a passenger, and the wife was driving, and they heard a noise in the back seat, and the little boy was still a baby. He was in the back seat, and his dad was covering him, and so he's a TBI, and he's been on my show, and he's doing real good. But if you'd have saw him years ago, you wouldn't think that's him. So I know there's its ability to improve. So you went to what was the place in Atlanta you said you went?
It's called the Shepherd Center, and they deal, and they're actually a hospital for people who have survived traumatic brain injuries and spinal cord injuries.
Is that therapy?
Yeah, and they also do a few more things, like they have some groundbreaking stuff for people with MS and things like that. But they have a stroke outpatient program, but they're connected with a hospital as well, Piedmont Hospital in Atlanta, and they do therapy. They have physical therapy, speech therapy, therapeutic recreation, occupational therapy. I mean, and they run you through the gamut from day one.
Well, after years, what do you remember being the hardest thing for you to relearn to do again? Walking, talking?
I think it was kind of a cumulative thing, because I was not supposed to walk again.
Right.
I was not, and I mean, and sadly, there are some cases where people are in a coma for the rest of their lives. I remember seeing a man there, and he just passed away recently, and he had to eat with a mirror in front of him so he could show himself putting the spoon to his mouth, or he couldn't do it. So I mean, so every TBI is different, but I would probably have to say, kind of coming to the realization that nothing that I ever did was going to be the same again.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and I remember the doctors telling us about neural pathways and things like that, and how my brain would have to reroute. Kind of like, well, right now, if you're going down I-20, you're going to have to reroute somewhere because they're going to do construction on it for, I guess, another 20 years. But
it'll happen today because you said that. No, yeah. Let me interrupt you there. See, I remember when I said I remember part of it. I remember from your family, some postings about your situation and prayers. Everybody asked me for him because it was question touch and go there of how you was going to come out of this. And at the same time, I had just hired a young man at Anna Starkville Depot, a pig in a poke. I had never seen him, never met him, but as a friend had asked me to hire him, and he was a brain injury from Talladega. And I don't mind saying it, gave me permission to say his name. His name is Wayne Sherbert. And similar years, his mom was a nurse. She quit her job, and she took it on because he was a vegetative state. And I hired him, and he couldn't hardly walk through a roll-up door. His balance, equilibrium was off. Today, he owns his own home. He's married. He's got several vehicles. He goes gold mining. He does stuff that I wish I could do. But I know there's hope for it. You're a living example of that. To see that it seemed desperation when you said that was the worst thing, and saying in this last minute we got in this portion here. Tell me what you said. You realized that this thing that you couldn't do. What was those things?
Well, yeah, sports. Football was completely out of the question. Anything contact sports, and that was tough. But I found a way to deal with that. Sal Gardner and my dad, they coached the 7th and 8th grade team for Oxford for many years, and they asked me to come and help them. And that was actually, I found maybe not the same reward, but an equal reward in coaching those kids.
We got to go to break, but that's one of the things that's playing football is you want to excel to the day that you can do what you were doing on the sideline. We got to go to a break. Come back. We're going to talk more with Josh about TBI. You folks that know someone that's got TBI, to pay attention to what we're talking about here today, because there is hope, and I'm showing it to you today. We'll be right back after this break. Stay where you are. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. We're talking with Josh Kraft, who is a survivor of traumatic brain injury. And Josh, when we left, we were talking about that you had, after your injury and during your recovery, you found some things that you had to give up. And one of the things was sports. And I knew you to be all into sports before this. And but you found the sideline working was what you would have probably done somewhere along the line anyhow. So you got to your point there. And then from that, what were some of the other things that you were able to do that you maybe thought you wouldn't ever do? You got
Well,
a job first, or
There are, and there are lots of things like that because, like I said, I wasn't supposed to live. Actually, I mean,
Yeah, I know.
and if I did live, well, he's never going to walk again. He'll be in a vegetative state. But I graduated high school on time with an advanced diploma. I graduated college
wait a minute,
with a bachelor's
you
degree
graduated with what?
with an advanced diploma,
Mm-mm. Wow. Go ahead.
and I graduated college. And that's the thing is I was able, and I finally realized that I would have to fight for myself with some of these things. And there are accommodations. There are things that I am entitled to as a traumatic brain injury survivor. And, maybe just simple things like extra time on test.
Mm-hmm.
Might get to bring a recorder into a lecture just so
Wow.
I can, rewrite. But, and those are simple things. And I've worked with my speech therapist, especially.
Have a teleprompter?
Yeah, well, I would enjoy that. And but we worked together on kind of taking my notes down in class and then taking them back home and listening to him again and jotting them down again. Make sure I can hit on the points.
You hit on something I've tried to tell others. Let's see how I say it. I worked in a job at one time that the requirements for that job, you had to have 4-year college and a minimum, or have done that job. Well, I had the qualification of having done the job, but I was in a job with people who had the 4-year college. I had chemical engineers and that kind of people. But I had to get in a little bit earlier in the morning, stay up a little later at night, just to be level. I was putting in more hours just to stay at the level they were, but it worked. I got it done, and I did all right for myself. But so you were doing some of the same thing. You were putting more effort into doing what some of the others just breezed on through. But
Well, and that's what we were talking about before the break a little bit. Is my brain had to reroute itself and find new pathways for me to learn. And I am a 100% visual learner now. I'm gonna do a whole lot better if I see it, rather than me hearing it.
well, you can't see any notes I've got there, so I'm gonna mess you up.
Well, I've been looking at them. I've been kind of glancing at
Let
them.
me ask you this. Other than your parents and friends and family, who do you attribute most to help you other than God?
Well, and that's great too, and that's what people, and I wish people had the support system that I had, because I had pastors, I had friends, I had, thanks be to God that my aunt was a
City
teacher
of Oxford.
at the high school when I was, coming back from my injury, and she helped me with all the homebound stuff. And I just had a great support system with VRS even to help me in job placement, and a lot of people that were willing to work with me to make sure that I could do the things that I needed to do.
Is that one of the reasons that you like to go down on the field on Saturday and not stay up there in the booth with me? I thought it was my deodorant, but I think
Well, and that is an interesting
Don't you get
thing
my deodorant?
because actually with the head injury, and I did lose a sense. I do not have a sense of smell. So if you are not wearing deodorant, doesn't bother me. I mean, you could go stay out in a hog pen.
I know that you go down there and you're talking with the kids and you're talking with the families. You know what it's like to have been there, and you know what the families go through. Those families that come out there on a Saturday that we see, we only see them for a short period of time, but they go through that 24/7, taking care of those precious children that come out there to play that sport. And you got that feeling for what your parents and your family went through to see that.
Well, and that's a great thing about me is I was able to fight for myself, for the accommodations that I needed and things like that. But when we go out on that field every Saturday, there are kids out there who cannot fight for themselves, who they have to have parents or advocates or even us as board members or volunteers to fight
Well,
for them.
What you mean fighting is not literally fighting. You're talking about somebody that'll step up to the plate and say, my son needs this, or my daughter needs this. And these people do that all the time, whether it's going to a doctor's office or going to the restaurant to eat, or whether it's going to the Walmart. And you know how Walmart is. They're going to have a dental thing out there, I've heard. But somebody in the booth was telling me about that. I don't know much about it. No, I'm just kidding you. But they do have to, somebody have to step up there and say, my child doesn't have this ability. Not talking about disability, but they don't have the ability to do this. So you had somebody doing that for you, and you were doing it yourself.
Oh yeah.
So
And I had, and I had people that would step up to bat for me. I would have to go, especially when I was in college at Jacksonville State. The first day, all my professors, if you need accommodations for any type of disability, go to DSS and get a pink sheet and bring it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have to go get a pink sheet and bring it to me just for some things that I would need maybe.
I would have to do that if I was going, because I can't step as high as I used to, and I can't climb as high. I got wheelchairs to get me around, and the one that you'd like to have, but you can't have that. Put that track chair. You'd love to have
The thing
it.
that looks like a tank.
Yeah, that thing looks like a tank. And you know the funny thing you said that, because they will not allow those in England. They say that it's a menacing vehicle and presents a menace toward the public, and because it looks like a tank. Of course, they don't allow their police to carry guns either, So, what the hey, blatant? Oh, but we're going to run out of time here. I want to make sure I covered everything. The therapist over in Atlanta, I keep seeing pictures of you. Is it in Atlanta, or your therapist, the one that worked with you? So you on your Facebook, you got a picture of you and a doctor.
Oh, that's actually Dr. Donald Leslie. He's the medical director
Of
the Shepherd Center, who was
in Atlanta.
he was actually born in Anniston.
Really? And you credited him with a lot?
Him and I've had another physiatrist, Dr. David Ripley, who's now at Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. And they did a lot for me there, just working with me, making sure I had the correct therapy. And
So your TBI is not the standard, and I don't think there is a standard. I don't think there's a standard TBI, because there's so many different variances of it. But the fact that someone out there has got a head injury, the kid playing basketball and hits their head on the stage or something, and the parents say, oh, they just got a knot on their head. Don't do that, right? They've got a knot on their head. Watch that knot. Pay attention. See if that kid's acting any different, slower, faster, whatever. Wouldn't you say that?
oh yeah, well, and there are safety, and thank God that we have a lot of, especially in sports, we have a lot of safety precautions. I think they're trying to come out with space helmets for the football teams.
Let me tell the folks while we're talking about that, if your child has a head injury and you'll become aware of it as a parent, the thing to do is when they go to the doctor, be sure that doctor is aware of that head injury, because they won't know why their equilibrium's off or something, or why, unless you tell them. Now I got the 30 seconds, so wind it up.
Well, I'd like to thank you for having me, and this is a very important month for me.
Every month is, ain't it?
Yeah, that's right. And now that we're into April, we'll be into April tomorrow, which
Let's
is
make
another
an
month.
appointment to be back here next year, and let's see how well you're doing, what all you're into next year. Nothing bad. It's your own America's Most Wanted, nothing. But I want to see your progress next year.
All right.
Josh Kraft, it's been a pleasure having you here, buddy. Thanks a lot. Got to go to a break. Come back. I got news that you can use. Stay where you are. Got a pen. Welcome back to Veterans Issues. Ken Rollins, and appreciate Josh Kraft coming in and doing the show today. And I hope you folks paid attention out there, because traumatic brain injury is not just for the month of March; it's for every month. And if you know of someone, if you're around someone who has a head injury from an automobile, the reason we got like 20,000 veterans coming back to the state of Alabama, and out of that, we got 20% that have PTSD, and only 8% have a traumatic brain injury of some sort. And that's from the IED blast and that kind of thing. They was all right. They had it blew up the Jeep and whatever, the Humvee, and they didn't show any blood anywhere, so they let them go on, come on back home, and now they got a traumatic brain injury. And so there is help for it, as you can see here today. What I had with Josh and others that's been on the show that show that you can survive traumatic brain injury and do well with it. So if you see somebody that you think might have that, and Josh had alluded to the football, they got kids playing football. Pay attention if your kid has been playing football and you just don't know why they're acting strange. It might be from something that happened on the field. So check with the coach and say, did Billy get hit in the head yesterday or whatever? and make sure you go to the doctor about that. So we can't take it for granted. As you heard with the director of the VA on here last week, they're building a new women's clinic, a new eye clinic, and new parking. And we're going to have over 2,000 parking spots over there in Birmingham. That's just for us. Right now, we've been sharing with a UAB and a Children's Hospital, and we'll have our own parking. I think probably by the end of the summer, we're going to have all that. So we can look forward to that. Bill Partridge has designed that law enforcement tag that is doing real well. A lot of people are purchasing that tag. It's got all the colors that go with every kind of color car, which is hard to say. You don't have to be in law enforcement to get that tag, but the revenue from the tag does go to honor those that were killed in the line of duty to help build a memorial for them in Anniston, and it also, a small amount goes to the one in Washington, D.C. So get ready if you're going to buy a tag for your vehicle. Look at that. Ask them to let you see the law enforcement tag up there, and you'll be glad you did. A lot of people are buying those, so I see them out on the road. Let me see if I got all this stuff to do. Now, I always talk to you about pay it forward. I did that this morning. And I won't go into all the details about it, but it wasn't but about $1 and something for the thing I paid forward. But when the lady behind me, I paid it forward, she blew her horn and I had to stop, and she was all teared up. She just had nobody. It was like $1.19, I think it was, but it meant a lot to her. She said she had not expecting nothing like that in her day, and that she was going to go pay it forward somewhere today too. So that's what it's all about. And so just telling you about that, not bragging on myself, but it's something you get a blessing out of, and I'm trying to help you get a blessing. If you see a veteran out there, if you happen to see a veteran, and you see them all over the place, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, whatever, and yesterday was Vietnam Veteran day, birthday type thing, 50 years. And so if you see one out there, say thank you for your service. Watch what happens to them. Watch what happens to you. Jack York, that made the cane, has been on the show several times. He's been on here, Santa Claus. Jack has been having some health problems, and we hope that he's doing a lot better. And if you want one of those canes, like I got the Eagle cane, you can call Jack at 256-237-4743 and get you one of those. It's got the Eagle head on it. And we got to go now. We've run out of time. So this week's salute goes to all of those that work with the victims of TBI, and no matter what level you work with them. But if you're doing that, you're doing God's work, and we appreciate it. And we're going to salute them, and we'll see you next week here on Veterans Issues. Salute.